Well, for more analysis on the issue of migration, we're now joined by Ebrahim Deen, a researcher at the Afro-Middle East Centre based in Johannesburg. Thank you so much for joining us, Dean, and thank you for your time. Dean, some believe that charity boats are enabling migrants in the Mediterranean. What do you make of this?
I think when we look at the issue of migrants and specifically to Europe, we need to start looking at the causes of the problem, and I think that's what we are forgetting. These states are looking at how you prevent them. You prevent them by stop interfering in these countries. For example, France is supporting Haftar in Libya. France is involved in operation in Mali. The European countries are involved in suppressing democracy in Niger, in Chad, in supporting dictators. And the only way you stop migrants is by looking at these root causes. But also in saying so, migrant numbers are down. It was about 190,000 in 2017. It's gone down to, roughly it was like 15, 20,000 last year. So it's gone down. It's not as much as it was before. So it's actually, Europe does need to realize that it's contributing to the problem and that it needs to find ways of solving the issue at its root. And its root is establishing or enhancing democracy, service provision in these areas. Now, in terms of these migrant boats, I think the big issue or the bigger issue is, yes, in a sense, the migrants do then get to Europe, but the numbers are minimal. And if Europe actually did its own responsibilities of helping to protect the migrants, we wouldn't have this issue.
Ebrahim, you touched a little bit on solutions that could end all of this, or at least minimize it even further. From what we hear to be reasons behind the issue of migration, the hope of financial prosperity seems to be a lure for many. What are some of the key ways you believe this situation of migrants can be dealt with?
I think one is this mistaken thing, this mistaken assumption that it's just economics. 2/3 of migrants go back to their countries. They want to go back. So it's actually conflict and political issues that are the bigger driver of migrants. And that's where Europe comes in. Europe is actually causing much of these issues. We look at Idris Deby Itno, the late Idris Deby Itno, supported, who passed away a few weeks ago. His regime was there in for 30 years, very dictatorial, supported by France, supported by much of Europe, because he was an aid in the fight against Boko Haram. So, we need to start looking at actual democracy, actual popular representation, actual human rights as a foreign policy base before we start looking at migrancy, because the lack of human rights, this security approach, or this, you benefit me, that's why I support you approach that Europe is taking with many of the African countries, actually causing the migrant issue. And that's where we start looking at it. Now, in terms of addressing it in the shorter term, because that's a longer term process, I think the shorter term needs to be increased. You need to speed up processes in dealing with migrants. And I think that's one of the issues that is hampering the migrancy issue, because, we're having people, for example, sitting in Libya for, months on end, trying to actually get even to be processed as migrants. And I think that causes the issue, makes people more angry, and then we start seeing situations where these people start taking it into their own hands and taking these rubber dinghies, trying to get to Sicily and Lampedusa and Malta. But at the end of the day, we have to look at the root, and the root is the instability, the political issues in these countries that need to be dealt with.
Thank you so much for that, Ebrahim, for those insights and for giving us a lot of information on that very complex issue. That was Ebrahim Deen, researcher at the Afro-Middle East Centre based in Johannesburg.